NAVA acknowledges the Gadigal and Wangal peoples as the traditional custodians of the land on which this was filmed, and pays respect to First Nations communities, ancestors and elders.
My name's Lucy Simpson. I'm a Sydney-based Yuwaalaraay woman and designer. So at the moment I'm working predominantly on public art projects, but my practice, I'm trained in graphic and textile design, and I love textiles and, that idea for a material to absorb and to translate story and place. But it's really evolved over the years, maybe the last 16 or so years, to include ceramics and glass, fibre work and weaving. I seek out the materials and the processes and the relationships to tell the story in the right way.
What has been a turning point in your career?
One of the biggest sort of pivotal moments for me was the drought of 2017 to 2019, almost 3 years, of the Murray-Darling region in New South Wales. And I still remember the feeling of walking the dry riverbed for the first time, in the spot that was the deepest, that holds all those stories that you're not meant to know. And it shook me to my core, because I had to consider what it meant to be a designer in a world that had nothing left to give me in terms of what I could create. So who was I to harvest materials from a place that was hanging on to life? So I had to kind of reassess my practice, and for a period of time I stopped making things because I didn't know what my role was anymore, or I guess maybe I realised I had a role to play. So turning my focus to working with waste materials and repurposing materials. And for me, it was about understanding what it means to be a freshwater woman when the rivers are no longer. So embedding those stories and reinstating value through story into these waste materials and making it beautiful so we can share that narrative. Dangal is our word for like the big boss river mussel. They can be 100 years old. And so when my sister and I walked the river, when it was completely dry, we would have seen hundreds just along this very short stretch of the river bend, all clustered and embedded into this dry mud, and sort of you could see they were hanging to life. And so for me then translating that into glass, the glass is heavy. You think about those old televisions, you never moved them because you couldn't. So there was a weight to the material that I felt translated the weight of the grief and the burden that we carry. And I mean, that's not the last drought we're going to have, but it was the worst one on the record. And so we're finding every year these records are continually broken. But how can we change the way we do things and look at this ample amount of waste that already exists in the world instead of making new things every day, And so I think it was the perfect thing for me because it was a special story, because it was quite an interesting material. Oh yeah, I remember those old things. People had associations with them. There's just something there in the ingredients that made it really special for me.
What is something you wish you knew when you were starting out as an artist?
Lots of things, probably. But I suffer pretty badly from anxiety, and it's not a story that I share because I feel that people might consider that I'm not professional, or so I think it's hard to speak about those vulnerabilities, but really important to do so. Because being an independent practitioner, artist, designer, whatever it is, it can be quite isolating. And so you don't know that there are other people with a similar experience because you don't talk about it and because you're not in those spaces with others often. And so I think the advice that I would give is that these are totally normal feelings and not to be so hard on yourself.
How has NAVA's code of practice been useful to your work as an artist?
For me, it was the reassurance and the empowerment that you get from knowing that you have a community of artists and creatives. There are lots of times that I've drawn a lot from NAVA, even in knowing how to value your worth in a monetary sense, and when it's often connected to cultural practice, it's hard to define that in a monetary sort of way. But having that support of NAVA and knowing there are other black artists that are part of that community, and this is just the way it should be, then there's reassurance in knowing that you're worth that and you can stand strong and say, well, it's not just me that says that, we're all together in this. I've just found it really empowering to be part of that community.
What brings you joy in your work?
I find it really hard to be in public spaces. Public speaking is difficult for me. So over the years, I've really used my work to speak on my behalf. So one thing I really love is that I can turn those feelings into physical things and share them with other people. But as that journey sort of evolved, it's been less about me understanding and celebrating the connections that I share and that I cherish and that I love and bringing that to other people. It's sort of evolved to be more about speaking on behalf of country and injustice and things that I feel a strong sense of responsibility to look after or to advocate for. And for me, country is at the heart of that, our natural world. And so exploring ways to do that through materiality, but also understanding my practice as a part of a continuing narrative and looking to new materials and techniques to help to craft that in different ways and innovative ways and ensuring that the story is always relevant and can connect to people from lots of different experiences and backgrounds.